So another Ashes Ascendancy Natural Magic expansion preview has dropped, and apparently that's just going to happen on Wednesdays, so hopefully we will get one next week as well, and look forward to seeing that next week. And this is going to be for player cards once again. Ashes doesn't really do previews in the way that the Marvel Champions does their previews. They sort of just show a couple of cards, and then you have to wait to find out what the rest are when other people get their hands on the product and reveal them. They sort of just show all the cards up front before you buy the product, which is kind of weird, I think. But I think it's a more ethical thing to do, so yay. Welcome back, Ashes players. Preview season for Ashes Ascendancy Natural Magic expansion continues. If you missed the last preview, you can click there. In the previous preview, they introduced Meave and Kana, and I don't know how that's pronounced, if it's Meave or Maeve, and I think the ethical thing to do is just to switch between Meave and Maeve every single video, so that everyone gets mad at me. Two wielders of natural magic as well as either Astral or Artifice. Let's delve a little deeper into the new cards that appear in their respective decks. So, Fluoro Tyrant is going to be the final form of the sort of evolutionary thing that Maeve's seed thing goes through. So this is the final form, and it kind of needs to be good in order to justify it, and I think it's fine. I wouldn't necessarily say it's good, or worth all the effort that it takes to get it out. But anyways, it is a 3/3/0, has Ravaging Vines. When this unit is declared as an attacker, if it is charged, deal damage to target unit and opponent controls equal to this unit's attack value. So that, if you could just get that out, like paying, I don't know, 2 or 3 dice for this to get it out, I would say this is an amazing unit, but you have to work really, really hard to get this out. I'm going to have to actually get my hands on it and use it to decide if I think it's worth the effort. My initial impressions are going to be yes in PvE, because you have a lot more control over how safe your guys are, but in PvP, those are going to be kind of high priority targets to take out when this is the final form of it, and you can take the previous forms out pretty easily. Anyways, we also see Maeve's unique card. This is going to be Overcharged Growth Alteration Spell Unit. This is going to be a side action and 2 basic dice. So you aren't locked to using Artifice with her, although you kind of are thanks to her Phoenix Born ability. But you're not locked to using Natural with her, I guess is the more accurate way of saying it. This unit now has the following ability. Unstoppable 1, which is a new keyword we have not seen before, but it is a combination of 2 other words. I can't remember them off the top of my head. But Unstoppable 1... This unit cannot be blocked or guarded by against units with an attack value of life value of 1 or less, and it gives them +1 attack, +1 life, and +1 recovery. So we've previously seen abilities that makes it so they can't be guarded or blocked by a unit with attack of 1 or less, and life of 1 or less. But this is the first time we've seen them combined in a single ability, so that's pretty good. For 2 dice, gives them +1 life, +1 recovery, and +1 attack. Very, very good against certain decks in PvP, and I think it might be good enough in PvE. The problem with PvE is that there aren't going to be any units that are going to be blocking or guarding unless they have Defender. So depending on the boss that you're facing, if they don't have any Defender units with attack value or life value of 1 or less, then this has basically no effect aside from the stat boost, but those are still a good stat boost. So, Maeve's Botanical Beast have reached its apex in the final form of Floral Tyrant. Charge up these flowery fiends with Artifice Magic to unleash devastation on the battlefield, or drive it home even further with Maeve's unique spell, Overcharged Growth, which I'm actually kind of surprised that it doesn't give them a charge dice when you attach this to a unit, but that's whatever. We also have Summon Capacitor Beetle. This is going to cost nothing to put out, and a main action, exhausting this and a B. Place a Capacitor Beetle conjuration onto your battlefield. If this spell is charged, draw 1 card. Now, this is actually really, really interesting because of the Capacitor Beetle itself. It is a 1/2/0 with Void Shift in a yellow box. That means this is an unexhaustible ability. Even when Capacitor Beetle is exhausted, you can still use this effect. So, Void Shift is a side action. Discard this unit to place an Artifice die from your exhausted pool onto a card you control, which is a very unique ability. We've not really seen anything like this before. So, to be clear, this is going to cost a B to put out, a main action and a B to put this unit out. But you can use a side action to discard this unit to put that B that you use to pay for it onto a card you control. So it's effectively 1B gets you a 1/2/0, and that 1/2/0 unit can still attack because this ability is in a yellow box, so even if they attack, you can still then use the side action to discard them and put that B onto a unit. In addition, if the Summon Capacitor Beetle is charged, you get to draw a card. So if you charge the Summon Capacitor Beetle, you can, for a single B, draw a card, attack with a 1 life unit, or block with a 1 life unit effectively, because if they die you don't get the B effect, and then you still get to use the B to charge another unit, which is absolutely bonkers. I think in PvE this is going to be really good. In PvP, kind of a weak unit, really easy to kill. Really easy to kill, so might not live long enough to actually get that side action off, but if it does, then it's great value. We also see Catalyst, action spell, discard, cost a side action and a gear. Draw 1 card, place an Artifice die from your exhausted pool onto a card you control, so basically the gear is going to be paying for itself to use the side action again. You may move an Artifice die from a card you control onto another card you control. So the value of this card isn't getting a gear onto a unit you control. It's moving a gear from a card you control onto another card you control. So that's interesting, but I also don't think it's worth using compared to some of the other cards that already can move dice around, because this will cost a card and you only get so many cards. So I don't think this would be a card I actually include, but I don't think it's a card that is bad enough to just say, no, you have to remove this. Meath brings some new tech to the playing field for Capacitor Beetle Conjuration. This expression of Artifice magic adds more flexibility to the game plan, revolving around charging cards and moving those charges around for value. Now, it's interesting that they say that, because so far when it comes to the Artifice dice card abilities, so much of it is just putting the charges out on units and moving them around, and I'm kind of like, we already have a lot now. With just 2 expansions, or the base game and an expansion, there's so many now, and with, 8 more dice types to go, how many more can we really get in a set before we're like, yeah, but we have this card but different, slightly different, you know? So hopefully they are going to do more interesting things with the charged dice than just putting them out and moving them around. I think that it would be interesting to see some abilities that say remove a charged dice from a card to do some sort of effect, or destroy a unit you control with a charged dice to get some sort of effect or something like that. But for now, it seems like we are just getting beneficial, like plainly beneficial effects with these Artifice cards. So we are now moving on to the Astro cards. We have Storm Chaser, ally battlefield, cost your main action a leaf and a basic. So this is actually a natural card. 1/3/1, Chase 2. When this unit is declared as an attacker, if you played an action spell this turn, add 2 to this unit's attack value for the remainder of the turn. So that is quite interesting. This is potentially a 3/3/1 for 2 if you have played an action spell this turn. So that means that you basically have to play action spells that cost a side action, because you can't play a main action spell and then attack with Storm Chaser, because that costs your main action to attack with. So the decks that you can use this with are very limited, but based on what we've seen from Kana's cards, this is going to be really easy to use in Kana's deck. It is a little limiting in PvP though, because it does telegraph exactly what you're going to do when you play, because you have to play your action spell first. So once you attack with them, you no longer have any actions, and therefore your opponent knows exactly what's coming. Well, unless you have a reaction spell to play. But once you have attacked with Storm Chaser, you probably will have played an action spell as your side action, and therefore they know that after you attack, that will be the end of your turn. Where normally you could attack first with your main action and then still have a side action threatening something. But that's fine. It's good value. And then Eagle Trainer, ally battlefield, main action, a moon and a basic. So this is a natural Astro die card. Call Eagle Fledgling. When this unit comes into play, place an Eagle Fledgling Conjuration onto your battlefield. This is a 1/2/1, so that's not great stats for 2 dice. However, the Eagle Fledgling is a 1/1, so you get 2 units for 2, which is good, and one of them has 2 life, so that's fine. And then the Eagle Fledgling has Uplift. When this unit comes into play, place an Astro die from your exhausted pool onto it. So when you play the Eagle Trainer, that Astro die that you use to pay for it will be put onto the Eagle Fledgling, and this is now effectively a 1/2/0 as well. So you get 2 1/2s units for 2 dice, so that's pretty good value. Several allies have flocked to Kana's side amidst the raging storms, or rising storms. The Storm Chaser is an awesome, inspiring adventurer who can't help but pursue the thrill of observing Kana's display of natural force. The Eco Trainer duel swoops into battle with a burst of speed, filling up the battlefield for a 2-for-1 deal that is sure to catch your opponents off guard. I'm not sure if this would catch your opponents off guard. That's a strange way to word it, because it doesn't really do anything. You just get 2 units, which is, you know, nice, but that's not how I would describe their benefits. Next up, we have Freezing Rain. Action spell discard. This costs you a side action and a leaf, and if you remember, the, what is it called? Storm Chaser requires that you use an action spell, a side action spell to get their benefit, so this would help with that, obviously. Place 1 exhaustion token on target exhausted unit. So, this might seem kind of strange if you are entering this game in Ashes Ascendancy and you've only played PvE, because obviously in PvE, you kind of want to get rid of all of the opponent's units. Because every unit that you leave out there is going to give them a status token, and that status token is going to be bad for you, in theory. Skaza Kalani isn't... you can kind of ignore her ability, to be completely honest. But yeah, so it might seem kind of weird to just be like, I'm going to exhaust an exhausted unit instead of just destroying that unit. Especially since this costs a leaf to use, which tends to do pretty good damage. They tend to do 2 damage for 1 dice. And that's enough to kill quite a few units, but it is... there are benefits. There are benefits to just keeping a unit exhausted instead of destroying them. However, again, like I said, if you are coming in from Ascendancy, this might seem strange to you, but it is fun to play with, trust me. And then we have Gathering Clouds. This costs a main action and a side action, and a moon and a basic. So that might be the first time you've seen a card cost both your side action and your main action, but that tends to mean that the cards are quite powerful. Whether or not Gathering Clouds is powerful or not, I think is up to debate. Place 2 Cloud Spirit Conjurations onto your battlefield. Place an Astral Die from your exhausted pool onto your Phoenix Born. So 2 dice gets you 2 units, and a dice and an Astral Die onto your Phoenix Born. But the Cloud Spirit is just a 1/1/0. Like, that's all it is. And it has Disperse. At the end of the round, you have to discard this unless you control another copy of this card. So unless they both are living by the end of the round, the other one is going to go away automatically at the end of the round. So it's not... these units are... I would hesitate to use this card, is all I'm saying. Because it does force you to use your main and side action to do this, and it's effectively 2 blockers and an Astral Die on yourself. Which can... I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying there are better ways to use both your main and side action and 2 dice. At the very least, it's not a card where I'm like, no, you have to automatically get rid of this card. I'll say that at the very least. So... I think that this preview has not been the preview that makes me the most excited based off all the previews that I've seen from Ashes. However, we do still have one more player card preview coming up. Stay tuned for next week's preview as we close out the Phoenixborn previews, because Ashes does just show you all the cards. So after the Phoenixborn previews are done, we'll probably see the Dragonborn cards as well, and since there's only 1 aspect, that shouldn't take too long. Anyways, Kana's variety of storm spells continue to expand with 2 more options. Freezing Rain bullies your enemies' threats into staying down after they are exhausted, making it that much harder for your opponents to block your flock of attackers. Now, they do call them a flock of attackers, so I'm assuming that she will have some more cards that give her multiple units, because in the first preview, I didn't really see that much. And speaking of attackers, use Gathering Clouds to call forth a pair of Cloud Spirits, further widening the threats of your swarm attacks. Again, these are just 1/1s, and I don't think that they're worth getting out, but whatever. And again, stay tuned for next week's preview as they close out the Phoenixborn previews. The Natural Magic expansion will be in retail and on their store Q2, hopefully at the end of this month, otherwise early next month, and hopefully I will see you there when we get to playing that. I'm also going to be back to playing Ashes quite soon, playing against the Frostwild Scourge, the Ashes Red Rain's natural boss, and I'm going to be using the cards that come with that, along with some other natural cards that have been previously released for Ashes, just to show them off. And if you are looking for some natural cards to expand your collection now that the natural expansion is coming out, hopefully those will be good videos for you to reference, and hopefully I will see you there. See you next time. Goodbye.